Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to call our workshop session to order. First up would be discussion regarding the scope of water assessment project.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I wanted to provide you the opportunity as we begin to study and develop a scope for the budget priority the Council set related to assessment of different options or alternatives to water sources that we included you or made it an inclusive discussion right off the bat with Council. I typically will do this by starting with a series of questions that we want answered through the scope, or we want somebody to give us an answer to. This is an initial list, but we also want to get input from staff. And generally, as a consultant is procured or selected, it can also be refined at that point. The consultant, obviously, you hire someone with expertise and they say, you need to think about other items to include in your scope. I think what we understood through the budget process in councils is you want a report or documentation on viable options for alternative or supplemental water sources. That will include quantities and capacities, anecdotal costs if available, pros and cons of the sources, and an outline of next steps. But what I mean by anecdotal costs, I'm not talking about engaging someone for a preliminary engineering report that will give you specific costs based on site, locations, distance, capacities, etc. But there's certain infrastructure costs that do come with anecdotal costs. For example, if you wanted to build elevated storage is about $3 a gallon. And so if we can start to at least put some of these costs together in terms of this is really expensive or it's not that expensive, we know that it'll have to be refined further. The two categories that at least I envision we'd look at would be, and they're very broad, but one would be surface water and one would be groundwater. Surface water, again, we have well over 2,000 acre-feet of water rights in Sulphur Creek. We also want to take a look at what other minor or major aquifers might be able to supply some capacity. The questions that I went through is, basically how much is it going to take to treat the water in Sulphur Creek to an acceptable standard? What capacity for finished water is available? What capacity is there based on our water rights and historical flows? If the treatment technology also includes a waste stream, how can we get rid of that waste stream? What are the capital and O&M costs, if there are those types of anecdotal costs that could be researched? On the groundwater, what major minor aquifer sources are available? Again, same questions, capacity and treatable quality. What is the technology we'd have to use? What are the costs? And I think the other big question is if we blend this water with what we're occurring, which is a very accepted procedure, you treat and blend to a legal standard. What are the regulations? What are the requirements of that blending process in terms of testing, monitoring, etc.? And is there something we haven't thought about? Is there something else out there that we haven't thought about in terms of an alternative source? And then obviously, what the next steps or what the recommendations that this report will provide us. I think the other thing too that I wanted to mention to council, and then we're hopeful for your comment, direction, and input, but what we want to do in terms of procurement of a consultant. Do we go to someone that we have worked with in the past on maybe slightly different types of engineering studies where they can model, etc. And that person may or may not have to bring in a subcontractor or someone to work with him on a particular specific expertise. Do you want to develop a scope and then also develop a request for proposal, request for qualifications, so that various firms could submit their list of qualifications. We would score them and then rank the highest one and start negotiating with that firm. So you do have the ability to, it is a professional service. We have folks that we have worked with in the past in terms of studies. This may be a unique enough study that you'd want to throw it out there and see if there's someone, a firm with particular expertise that could do this for us. Just as a reminder, as a professional service, we would not ask for a bid. Typically, you cannot select based on price. You select based on qualifications, and then you negotiate a price. You can't negotiate a price that you both agree to or a scope you both agree to, then you go to the next most qualified firm. But I'd be very interested in your comments and input, and we want to continue this process. I would think for the next, with staff and other experts, and move this forward in the next 30 to 45 days.
Finley, one of the things that we had talked about previously as a possible outcome was byproduct of the treatable water.
Correct.
Is that a question that we need to include?
Yes, I think when we talk about
In order to return
that's absolutely important to know. Treatment technology results in a waste stream. What is the likely allowable means for disposal? Is it land application? Is it deep well injection? Is it reintroduction into the stream? I mean, and just not to bore you, but when the EPA came out with the radionuclide rule, one of the things that they had, that rule was 60 pages long. One of the things they failed to address is if you take radionuclides out of the water, do you have nuclear waste now? And so there was no guidance provided at that point. So that's a very valid question. Are we on the right track, Council, or anything else you'd like to see?
I can't think of anything else, but I think these are good questions to start with.
I mean, would you say, Finley, that we're in unprecedented times when it comes to our water situation?
I say that, and then I think, we also, I think Texas has lived through drought and flood. 2011, it was somewhat unprecedented. The 50s, unprecedented. So, yes and no, but the lack of moisture, particularly going into the summer. We did have some rains in May, but if you look at the lake levels in April over the last several years, that lake level in April, it just never did get to a good starting point, as far as we can tell. Unprecedented. I mean, we've had periods of drought, but I mean, we set records for days over 105 this year. We set records for days over 100. So I think some of it is unprecedented.
You were talking about maybe some folks we've worked with before. Who comes to mind?
Jason Jones.
You think it'd be worth talking to Jason first?
Absolutely.
Before we put out
I think that was in the back of my mind, was sitting down with Jason saying, what are your thoughts on this? Is this something that, what firms out there match up with this scope? Can you work with, kind of get his input on it, not only from the selection, but also the scope itself. What other questions haven't we thought of? But yes, I would start with him. Or he would be one of the folks we visit with.
I'm going to agree with that. I think that's a good idea. And I like the idea of opening it up, because this is not something we've ever done.
Council, if you do have anything that comes to mind, please let me know. Again, we'll be working with staff as well as other folks with expertise and trying to package some sort of scope. Like I said, probably not by next meeting, maybe the meeting after. Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion regarding any items on the regular agenda? And if there is none, we will adjourn the workshop session and we will call our regular session to order. We'll all rise.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity to come to you tonight. take care of your business for all of our citizens. We pray that you be with us on both sides of the tables and all around the room. Let us be able to relay information and make good decisions based on that. We're particularly grateful for the small amount of rain that's come our way over the last few weeks, and we'd be even more grateful if you could see fit to send us a little more when you're ready. We want to thank you for the city, for our government, for our people, and for this nice community. We ask that you be with us in safety until we can meet again. As always, in Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the United Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Tonight we have the great privilege of doing some proclamations. And first one would be the General Federation Women's Club, Living the Volunteer Spirit. Whereas the General Federation of Women's Club is a unifying force, bringing together a local women's club with members dedicated to strengthening their community, enhancing their lives of others through volunteer service. Whereas with more than 60,000 members, affiliated clubs in every state and several counties, the GFWC members are community leaders who work locally to create global change by supporting the arts, preserving the natural resources, advancing education, promoting healthy lifestyles, and encouraging civic involvement and working towards peace and understanding. Whereas the GFWC has established an annual National Day of Service to highlight an area of need, take action to address it, and raise public awareness about its importance. Whereas the state's federation and clubs will participate by organizing community service programs in their communities as part of the National Day of Service. Whereas the first annual GFWC National Day of Service is focused on helping to end hunger in the United States by volunteering or organizing community service projects dedicated to raising the awareness of and alleviating food insecurity. Whereas food insecurity is defined by the United States Department of Agriculture as a lack of consistent access to enough food for every person in a household to live an active and healthy life. Whereas the first annual GFWC National Day of Service will be held on Saturday, September the 30th, 2023. There are two active GFWC clubs in Lampasas, the 36 Club and the Perennial Club. Now, therefore, I, Herb Pierce, Mayor of the City of Lampasas, do hereby proclaim Saturday, September the 30th, 2023, as the GFWC National Day of Service in the City of Lampasas, and encourage residents to join the local clubs in raising awareness and helping to eliminate food insecurity into the community. Proclaim this day, 25th day of September, 2023.
Pulling down for a picture. Everybody. Make sure everybody can see me.
Thank you.
We're gonna get Thank y'all. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Prior to doing the next proclamation, I would like for you to watch a video that was put together by Ashley Elizabeth. I think it'll kind of bring anything to life for what we're doing tonight for Love Thy Neighbor.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom from the end, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, bright magenta, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, the colors of the rain, so pretty in the sky, are so many faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you.
Mayor Pierce, at this time, if you would read the proclamation for us, please.
I don't know if I can. I'm so proud. Love Thy Neighbor Day Proclamation. Whereas it all starts with a bracelet, due Lampasas is gifted a distinctive blue bracelet inscribed with Love Thy Neighbor to the community, and whereas it's completely your choice to wear it, imagine the sense of unity when you see someone at the local HEB or getting a church breakfast taco wearing the same bracelet. It's more than just an accessory, it's a symbol of our collective commitment to take care of each other. And whereas we pray that the bracelets inspire you when you look down at them, whether it's for that day, that week, or year, let them remind you you love one another. And whereas maybe you'll forgive an old misunderstanding, share a genuine smile with a passer-by, or enjoy a heartfelt chat on a porch. And whereas the way to express the loves are endless. This provides each of us the opportunity to be creative and to show the world of our small town big hearts, and whereas everyone needs to feel encouraged, inspired, and to be a part of something bigger, and there is nothing greater than the unity within the community, and whereas next year's promises a new bracelet for you to collect, but this year let us plant the town blue on October 5th as we celebrate Love Thy Neighbor Day. Blue for unity, for the love, and for Lampasas. Therefore, I, Herb Pierce, Mayor, City of Lampasas, do hereby proclaim October the 5th, 2023 as Love Thy Neighbor Day in the City of Lampasas. Proclamation to designate the week of October the 8th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the City of Lampasas is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all of those living in and visiting our city, and whereas home fires kill more than 2,800 people in the United States in 2021, according to the National Fire Protection Association. And fire department in the United States responded to 338,000 home fires. And whereas cooking is a leading cause of home fires in the United States, and fire departments responded to more than 166,400 annually between 2016 and 2020. And whereas 2 of every 5 home fires start in the kitchen, with 31% of these fires resulting from unattended cooking, and whereas children under 5 face a higher risk of non-fire burns associated with cooking than being burned in a cooking fire, and whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires almost in half. And whereas Lampasas first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence in home fires and home fire injuries through the prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme, Cooking Safety, starts with you. Pay attention to fire prevention. Effectively serves and reminds us to stay alert and to use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. Therefore, I, Herb Pierce, Mayor of Lampasas, do hereby proclaim October the 8th through the 14th as Fire Prevention Week for the city of Lampasas. I encourage all the people of Lampasas to check their kitchens for fire hazard and use safe cooking practices during Fire Prevention Week of 2023 and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Lampasas Fire Department. Public hearing, citizens' comment. Any citizen who desires to address the city on a matter not included in the agenda may do so at this time. The city council may not deliberate on the items presented under this agenda item. And no one's. Citizens' comment. Any citizen who desires to address the city council on a matter that is included on the agenda may do so at this time. Nathan Carl.
Mayor, council, I definitely appreciate a fire prevention week. My father is retired Houston firefighter. Thank you, Joe. So I was here a few weeks ago and I discussed how our chief appraiser is not following the tax code. We don't need to get into that here tonight. I'm here because it's that time of year where our taxing entities have to nominate the board members for the appraisal district. So I want to, I gave you this to kind of illustrate all the other counties that are applying the tax code correctly that we are not. But what I'd like to address today is how the board has handled this situation over there at the appraisal district. Back in March, I filed a formal complaint per the guidelines from their website. Those guidelines state that they're supposed to deliberate in an open meeting the complaint. That has never happened. It also states they're supposed to give me a quarterly update until that does happen. I have had no response from the board. I have made that board aware of every single thing on this document that I've given you, and as everything I discussed 2 weeks ago as well. So the board's well aware of it. I can't get any items added to the agenda so it can be discussed. I have no way to get a hold of the board members over there. They have no contact information. The chief appraiser won't give me any contact information. And frankly, the appraisal district board has taken no actions to rectify this situation. I don't think they understand the gravity of what's happening here with the chief appraiser over there. I've asked those board members to remove our chief appraiser because she is not following the tax code. And every time I go over there, it seems like they're doing nothing about it. So I'm here today to ask this council to not nominate a single board member that's currently a part of that board. So when you're filling out that form, that's my ask. Please do not nominate a single board member that's currently on that board. Thank you.
Thank you. Two point one, discussion and possible action concerning the approval of minutes of the special meeting held on September the 6th, 2023.
I don't see any changes that need to be made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda, discussion and possible action to put, two more. Where did I miss? Oh, discussion and possible action concerning the approval of minutes of the regular meeting held September 11th, 2023.
I don't see any changes that need to be made. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda. Discussion and possible action to approve the second reading of an ordinance for a specific use permit to allow the sale of portable buildings in an area zone commercial described as 1 acre abstract 0042 John Burleson Survey, commonly known as 615 Central Texas Expressway, Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County. Discussion and possible action to approve the second reading of an ordinance for a specific use permit to allow for a daycare in an area zone retail described as approximately plus minus 3 acres, lots 1 and 2, block 58, A.H. Barnes Addition, commonly known as 808 Southwestern Avenue, Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County. Discussion and possible action to approve the second reading of an ordinance to amend the Lampasas Code of Ordinance zoning regulations to consider single-family residence in residential 10 SF10 zoning classification for Hillside Acres subdivision 36.76 acres located in Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County. Discussion and possible action to approve the second reading of an ordinance to amend the Lampasas Code of Ordinance zoning regulations to consider single-family residential 10 SF10 zoning classification for Hidden Oak subdivision, 4 acres located in Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County. Discussion and possible action to approve the second reading of an ordinance to rezone 12.74 acres out of land out of the James Easley Survey, ABST number 0185, Lampasas, Texas County. Lampasas County owned by Ronald and Deborah Cooper from agricultural to multifamily to apartment. Discussion and possible action regarding approval of the second reading of an ordinance to improve intersection at the 4th and Spring to amend the City Lampasas Code Ordinance Chapter 78, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 2, Specific Street Regulations, Division 2, Stop Intersection, Section 78.61, by adding this intersection as an additional all-the-way stop in the City of Lampasas.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Board and department reports.
All right. Yes. All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. So this is my update, my 2023 Economic Development Corporation Annual Report. So I'm gonna kind of get into a little bit of the weeds just because I can nerd out with this stuff, and this is my first time doing it, and I don't have to do this information next year. But first, I want to talk about purpose of EDC. So, Texas legislature, they adopted the Development Corporation Act in 1979, and what that does is it gives cities the ability to finance new and expanded business enterprises in their local communities through EDC. So, the main purpose of it is to create a primary job. So, a primary job is one at a company that exports the majority of its products or services to market outside the local region, infusing new dollars into the local economy. So basically, what we're really after is getting businesses in this community that is creating a product that is being exported out. So somebody else that isn't in Lampasas to purchase a product so that their dollars are coming into our community. So that's one of the big reasons that EDCs were created. There's two types. There's a type A EDC and a type B EDC, and which one you are is dependent upon what the residents vote to become. So type A is pretty much that you can utilize the dollars to go toward industrial projects, which includes such things as business infrastructure, manufacturing, research and development. And then there's type B, which includes everything in type A, but you can also do parks and museums, sports facilities, and affordable housing. So more quality of life type things. And the reason they kind of did that was so that you can create a community that's providing a quality life to where then you can utilize it to entice businesses to want to come, to where it's going to be a good place for their workers to live in. So, Lampasas, our history of becoming an EDC, it was passed on October 1st, 1998, where the residents decided to become one, and we are a type B EDC, so we can do quality of life projects. And we have a quarter cent, so basically for every sales tax dollar that's spent in Lampasas, the EDC gets a quarter of that cent. Our team is the Executive Economic Development Director is Finley, and then I am the Economic Development Director, and it's just us, but we are city employees where we work really closely with city staff. So our mission and partners, this is just a not formal mission, but just kind of give you a little concept of what I'm striving to do, and that's striving to balance innovation with tradition, fostering both new opportunities and our community's enduring charm. So basically, I am trying to bring in innovation, but also keep Lampasas what it is today, and just continue to try and strengthen it and do what I can by giving the existing businesses tools to flourish. So kind of making sure that we keep that balance, and then the businesses that we do attract here, making sure they're the right fit for Lampasas. So working with the governor's office and the economic development and tourism, the city of Lampasas, the Greater Killeen Chamber of Commerce, where they represent this region, and Lampasas falls in that. And then the Lampasas County Chamber, and then as well as Lampasas County, to where we're working collectively to make sure that the region continues to grow. So our board is President Lucy Talbert. She's a financial administrator, and she's the past mayor. Our vice president is Steve Hudson. He is the vice president of Geico. Our treasurer is Roland Shaw. He is the owner of Ace Hardware. Then we have board member TJ Monroe. She is our past mayor as well. Board member Ryan Shahan. He is the branch manager or branch president of Cadence Bank. Then board member Sid Ball. He is the partner at Ball & Ball, which is a CPA business, and then board member Finn Irwin, to where he is the multifamily senior advisor for Marcus & Shop. All right, so our total budgeted income for this year, fiscal year 24, is $460,000. So that's increased by $27,000, a 6.24% increase. But our total budgeted expenses, we kind of reined that in a little bit and tightened it to where it's $345,542, which is a decrease of $87,458, so decreased by 20.2%. Then our total bond funds is $573,529, which is going toward the business park infrastructure. And then our net surplus is $114,458. So I kind of left this in here because I've been getting asked this question since being here. What's the difference between the EDC and the chamber? And I did this presentation at the Chamber of Commerce's networking meetings, and I thought it was helpful to those that were there, so I kind of wanted to highlight that in this presentation, just to kind of show the difference. In every chamber or EDC, the way that they connect and what their relationship is different in every community, which is just dependent upon maybe when the EDC got passed or how strong the chamber is. It's just going to be different. There's no right or wrong way. It's just what works for your community. So what I found here in this community, the chamber, I'm going to use an analogy and kind of carry on with it. Just bear with me. So the chamber, I kind of think of it as like the gardener, the one that nurtures the business environment, tending to its needs and ensuring it grows healthy, like a gardener caring for individual plants. And the EDC is more the landscaper, so designs and promotes the overall economic vision, just as the landscaper plans and beautifies an entire garden or property. So together they cultivate a flourishing economic landscape for the community. So carrying with that, so if the Chamber of Commerce is the gardener, their role is taking care of individual businesses. So their functions are listening and observing, so keeping a pulse on businesses through networking meetings, which Melissa does extremely well. And then there she speaks up, pushing for business-friendly environments, to where her and I have that really strong relationship of making sure I'm knowing what the businesses are doing day in and day out, or if they're having struggles, or keeping that relationship going, so I can help to push certain policies through or help with certain things that might be able to help them. So EDC, in regard to landscaper, my role is planning the big picture of economic growth. So those functions are setting the foundation, helping businesses grow, showing off our community, bringing in new businesses, and they're all just puzzle pieces to make up the total makeup of what the position is. So to get into each puzzle piece, there's the foundation, setting the foundation. So these actions would include stuff like supporting the government, schools, community, so making sure the ground is ready for businesses to grow. An example of that is been making resources more accessible, making sure that they know where certain schools or different programs are. For instance, if trying to let them know where there's different certificates that you can become a stronger entrepreneur, or getting financial resources together so they have that one-stop shop and getting it on the website. And then also just working with local nonprofits, LCHEC, CTE, and SITCOG. Another one is preparing workers, so setting up programs like job fairs to make sure businesses have the people that they need. So, example, I had a job fair in June. We're going to continue to do it at the end of the school year, have another job fair. And then we're SITCOG, Workforce Solutions, the Chamber, and myself, we are going to be starting to launch an entrepreneur summit, which that's going to be January 30th, and it's going to be from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and it's going to have a lot of different speakers there, and tell them just how you can do a business plan, answer questions, tell them about financial resources, what's out there. Then another function is improving quality of life, so working with groups to make the community a better place to live and work. So Melissa and the Chamber and I are trying to put together an action plan that will coincide with other nonprofits or other groups doing it, but that we have more of an action plan of what can we do to strengthen the quality of life that we already have that's here. Which I'll be coming with that action plan to kind of show you guys a draft of it. So next puzzle piece is growth, so helping businesses grow. So that's the function is finding the right spot, helping businesses find the best place to set up. So an example of how I've been trying to do this is we partnered with the site selection software, which is now on our website. So that is it's a software that goes exactly to the broker's website. So any site that's posted or any available property that's posted on a broker's website automatically feeds into our website, so I can know where's the right place if a business approaches me, and then they can also do it themselves. And then I've also just been working on updating the website and then including that data that shows real-time information about statistics with Lampasas, so people can choose that Lampasas is the right spot. Next is funding and support, so offering things like grants to help businesses thrive. So that's doing these more in-depth business meetings, which I'll speak to in a second, to get more information of what kind of funding and support they'd like. Because right now we have the life safety grant, so that's if a business is wanting to renovate its place or expand, they may have to have fire sprinklers in place, and that can be expensive, so encourage them. We have the life safety grant. However, with these more in-depth business meetings, I'm hoping to figure out maybe why they're not utilizing it as much, or is there a different type of funding and support that they could use so that we can really start to tailor it to what the specific needs are. Next thing is making things easier, streamlining processes so businesses can get things done faster. So I'm trying to do that by updating the website, make it clearer, and then add more data so they don't have to go search for it themselves. And then just staff has been working really hard. Ryan, Becky, Frank, they've been working really hard to kind of improve the development process, make a development checklist, streamline it. We're going to be having development meetings coming up, and so we can learn kind of what's working, what's not. And because if we make things easier, then it's going to be easier for them to want to come and expand here in Lampasas. So next is showing, third puzzle piece is community, showing off our community. The way to do that is getting the word out just to other people, other communities out there, and using tools like websites and social media to let others know about our community. One of that is trying to showcase businesses on social media, tell their story, show the ones that people aren't as aware of. We went to the governor's office in the beginning of summer. Finley, Misty, the EDC president, and myself to kind of let them know that Lampasas is here. We have this business park, so we've been getting the word out. Been going to visiting to other communities, getting flyers and stuff to site selectors. I've done some site selector visits here in Lampasas of them looking at the business park. We're advertising the business park on LoopNet and CoStar. I've also just been doing cold calls by looking at other communities that are similar to us and what kind of industries are working there, and then trying to cold call. Next is trying to stay competitive, is making sure our community stands out from others in things like land, workforce, and housing. So an example of that is Lampasas is really unique in that we're kind of far away from things, but there's Temple that has a lot of business parks and Belton that has a lot of business parks. But we're on the other side to where I-35 is going to continue to get busier and busier, but us being on 183 in that straight shot, we have a unique opportunity to really take advantage of our business park when other communities don't have that right now. So making us being competitive is having that business park, but making sure that it's done correctly. That's trying to stay competitive. So we've gotten the zoning done recently, which is it's a broad zoning, but does limit a lot of stuff, and making sure that the right type of business that goes in there. We've figured that out. We've got it passed, as well as covenants, so making sure that when a business goes in there, they have to remain attractive. Then we have our pricing maps figured out to where we have the pricing done. We have maps, flyers, and then just having the website tools and then responding to requests for information from the governor's office to continue to stay competitive. Then another one is open conversations, so talking to businesses to know what they need and how to improve. So I mentioned earlier that right now the chamber is doing business connect meetings, kind of networking meetings every other Wednesday, but we want to get a little bit more in depth and try and do like some networking meeting or like more casual happy hour type things or seminars like workshops telling them what kind of business plans or how to do social media marketing or even just to sign in or set up an account. And we put together a business survey to have them fill it out to see what kind of prompts or what kind of stuff are they looking for, what time of day is going to be best. So we put that out to the Chamber of Commerce networking connect meetings. They filled that out. I've also did it at the Courtyard Square, and then we posted it online to try and get feedback. So if you want to let anybody know that survey's out there, we would welcome the input. So the fourth and final piece is bringing in new businesses. So that includes reaching out, using marketing and building connections to attract new businesses. So letting the realtors, the governor's office, CoStar, LoopNet, doing business retention visits for those that are already here, because I've already had leads from going to businesses, doing my business retention visits, and then wanting to expand, but how do they take that next step? And then just looking at potential conferences in the future where we can try and reach out and bring in new businesses. The next is offering incentives, so giving reasons for businesses to choose our community. So a lot of my time is talking with business prospects of getting them the information, doing the back and forth negotiations, trying to get us there. And then also, right now, the board and I, over the next couple months, we're going to be refining our incentive guidelines. The guidelines were passed in 2018, and we want to get that up to date and more concise and make it reflect exactly what we're doing right now. And so I'm excited to get that worked out, because then we can also post that so that any business prospect that comes knows exactly what we're following. Next one is working together, so making deals that are good for both the community and the business. Example of that is, again, getting the incentive guidelines, but also we do an economic impact study. So we have the set price of the land and then have them fill out the economic impact study. And based on their economic impact that business is going to provide to the community is dependent on how much we go off of the set price. So we want to make sure that we're making a good deal for the community and they're actually going to provide economic impact to us. So just to get into a tiny bit of this, so lead generation right now, so when I'm trying to attract the businesses, I'm getting leads from all over, and a lead is just basically, hey, I get word that there's a business that is interested in having maybe 5 acres. They need this amount of utility requirements. They're a type of manufacturing that fits our zoning. So just getting that information, and it can come from anywhere, like the Small Business Development Office, the governor's office, from site selectors. So they come from everywhere, but getting that word, then it starts this process. The engagement process, which is project identification, that's pretty much, hey, there's a project out there, they're looking for a site. And then if we meet those site requirements, or that we have a site that can meet their requirements, then reach out to them, provide them resources about our city, as well as the site that might interest them. And then if they're still interested, then it usually follows with them kind of asking about price or doing a first proposal, but it's not a very formal proposal. And then myself asking them to do an economic impact report. And then once they fill that out, following up, and this can take a lot of time. There's a lot that goes through it, and then if that even gets to that point, trying to schedule a site visit, bring them to the community, show them around, get them something, take them to a restaurant, tell them about our assets here, drive them around, and then take them to the business park or take them to another site that they're interested in. And then after that, if they're still interested, reaching out, then it usually follows with more of a formal proposal with even a letter of finance saying like, hey, we have the financials to actually go forward. And then with that, then it would start with EDC negotiations. And if we get to the right price, to the right incentives, then you go into deal closing. And then after deal closing, it turns right back into business retention. So now they're a business owner in our community, and maintaining, just keeping that relationship with them, especially through the construction process, making sure everything's good, and then the cycle just continues on. So this is the Lampasas economic development matrix that I've created. This is pretty much just for myself, just to see how many leads are out there, keep it together. So if you focus on fiscal year 2023, the amount of leads received, and again, that's just getting word that there's a project out there that they're looking for a certain site, just getting that buzz. So that's 57, and leads can come from businesses in the community or other businesses outside the community, from developers, brokers, consultants, from the governor's office, from staff, myself, just doing kind of cold calls and figuring it out. And then proposals submitted, that's like going back to this part, right before a site visit. So first proposal, economic impact report. So that's pretty much showing right there that there's been about 8 since this year that have gotten to that step. And then site visits, we have 5 new site visits. So that's 5 this year that have gotten to the site visit portion. But then getting to the deal closing and getting that far, we haven't gotten that far. But again, this is an extremely long process and something that takes a lot of time. It has to be the right fit that fits exactly into the community. So just want to let you know that we're working on it and going to continue to barrel forward, but just wanted to provide some information that gave some insight to what the process looks like. And then all of those together, foundation, growth, community, attracting, all comes together to make it work and focus on growing Lampasas in a healthy and good way. And that's it. Any questions?
You know, Stacy, what are you doing to, you mentioned strengthening our local businesses that are already currently going. What are you actually doing? Can you give us an example of what the EDC does to strengthen our local businesses?
Yeah, so I'm hoping with these business meetings that we're gonna start and getting that feedback, with having them every month, every other week, getting the information from them of what they're needing, and so we can further strengthen it. But if I've already heard a lot of them want help with how to market, how they can further strengthen their social media, or that they don't know how to log into social media, or certain what other financials are out there. Is there small business development loans? So being able to, because I do have those resources, I can guide you to others that are experts in that. But being able to connect those dots with local businesses, I think, is extremely valuable from my side of it. And then also being able to provide the funding and support if they wanted to do the life safety grant, or being able to talk with them and seeing why aren't you taking advantage of it, or is there a different kind of funding mechanism we can put together for you?
Okay.
Is there any way to pull up that matrix again?
Mm-hmm.
So when I get down to business retention visits, 30% complete, and we're going into the last quarter of the year.
Huh?
So I'm looking at the business retention visits,
Mm-hmm.
and for the annual goal of 30, there's only been 30% done, and we're in the last quarter of the year or moving into it.
That's doing like a in-depth kind of business retention, scheduling a meeting, really talking with them, figuring out what's going on. But going to businesses, I'm not counting that.
I mean, even with that, if the goal is 30 and only 30% and it's getting towards the end of the year, how can that be better? How can you make that number better?
Focusing on that.
Okay. Because I see that, and the proposal submitted, you can't do much about that, right?
Right.
Except go out and try to find people, or try to entice people that are interested. Because if you've got over 50% of the leads received, but then we've only got 32% of proposals submitted, and I know you're not going to get everyone that's interested. That's crazy to think about. But if we're over halfway through the goal this year on leads received, why do you think we don't have more proposals submitted? I mean, what's the hang up? What could be better?
For proposals submitted?
Yes, ma'am. You said it's a long, arduous process. How do we keep people going through it and trying to move to the next step?
There's a lot that kind of different steps, and it's going to be whenever the proposals are submitted. So with leads that come down the pipeline, it doesn't mean that we have the right site for them to where I can't submit for all those. So anytime that we have a site that matches those leads, I am submitting, always. And so the leads are just leads, but I can't make it to where I can submit more proposals unless I get the leads. And I can only apply to the leads if we're a fit.
I mean, do you feel there's anything that can be done right now? And I mean, this isn't a shot or anything. Is there anything that can be done to get folks more interested? Are you losing people where they could actually put a business here? Are people backing out or not moving forward?
I think in this kind of the state of the economy, that's also tough, and a lot of it is coming and looking at the site, or not ready to pull the trigger, or just prices and the process of it, and which is what we're working out with the incentives guidelines of what that process is to make it easier, so we can make sure that we're able I'm able to have more autonomy to be able to really go after and pull in the hook. But again, this is just a way for myself to be held accountable, but I am doing my best to bring in as much as I can. And doing the business retention visits, I've been really trying to, since being here, try and get the business park started to get marketed, and so it can continue to go. But then after that, I think it was about June or so, really trying to focus on business retention visits and start focusing on that side of it now that I have the business park more up and running and kind of the marketing machine going, so that I can pivot a little bit more to doing the business retention, making sure the businesses that are here are strong. So us doing these business meetings is a huge, strong component of what I am really hoping for, so that I can see what's the struggle, or if there's struggle, or what we can do to help that's better, so I can strengthen all of this.
You know, as a community, we've been sitting on the business park out there for about the last 20-something years and poured in several $1 million into it. Isn't that correct? You know, and I've always heard, you know, once we get the streets and the infrastructure, people are going to come flocking in. And that hasn't happened. And we've been kind of working on this project here, I think, on the infrastructure for about the last couple of years, I believe, with streets and electricity and water, sewer. And we're playing a long game here. Mm-hmm. And we want people to come, to bring their employees here, to bring their service companies here, to, you know, there's a whole lot that comes within a business. Is there any type of incentives that we're talking about bringing in these businesses?
What do you mean? Any type of incentive?
Any types of incentives as far as the land, tax abatements, or anything like that?
So when it comes to the EDC, our focus, again, that's going to be more readily defined once we start the incentive guideline process.
How come we haven't done that before now?
We do have it, but...
Well, tell me what it is then.
Land grants.
Okay.
But there is other ones in the guidelines, but in regard to what possibly our board is really wanting to focus on is land grants. But then it would be also great to have the conversation of, with the city, with the county, with the school district, what are we also willing to offer?
Okay. Because when
there's been folks interested in the business park, though. There's been businesses interested that have gone out there, right? Mm-hmm. Site visits and whatnot. And I believe I've even heard that some business owners, it's, well, what do y'all want to offer for the land? Is what they're getting from the EDC, but that's not generally how I don't think things work, is it? I mean, you don't ask your buyer, what do you want to pay?
Right. So right now we have our set prices for the land, and then, which is based off of our appraisal, and then the economic impact form allows us to justify if we're going to go down anymore.
So if a business comes in here that's going to bring in, say, 25, 30 employees, and they're going to live right here in Lampasas, and the long game that I'm talking about, those people are going to come in with a certain tax base. We may not get that certain tax base just on that property alone, mm-hmm. but through hotel occupancy, through shopping, through housing, all of that stuff. And that's what I mean by a long game that we're looking at down the road.
Agreed. Which is built into the form. Again, a form is a form. It can only allow us to really predict the future so much, but in that form it does show like how many employees are you going to have, and it takes all of those things into account, that when we're looking at the impact of the business, it does take into account the sales tax that the employees will generate here, the hot taxes that from while they're building the business for the hotel nights. Those things are taken into account.
Okay. So if I'm like a light and medium manufacturing company, and I'm looking at multiple cities in the Central Texas area, and I don't know, I'm just saying this off the top of my head. You're going to know more about this than I do. But another town says, all right, well, I know Lampasas is trying to sell you this acreage at whatever y'all are selling an acre, but hey, we don't need to do that. And in fact, we're going to give you, a cut on your taxes for 10 years. Why would someone come here?
A lot of it, we do have great qualities, and us having that straight shot to Austin, it depends on the location of the logistics of where they're going. And then, so again, like if they're in Temple, I-35 is getting busier. If they're trying to get a straight shot to Austin Bergstrom International Airport to ship stuff all over the place, instead with I-183, it's a faster drive than going I-35 most of the times. With our community, the land, and again, it does dependent on incentives, but we would like the ability to offer or have that conversation. But again, it's a tough game out there.
I don't have to go 183. If I'm out here, I can go 190 to the Killeen Airport, which you can ship things or you can ship things commercially there. Or if I'm in Vernon or Marble Falls, I've got ways into Austin. I'm just saying, like, personally, as someone that is put together businesses and looked at the numbers that I have to maintain or what I have to meet to keep on operating, I wouldn't come to a town if I had to go buy that land and you're not offering me anything. So what's being done with that?
I hear what you're saying, but I mean, part of me, that's a other aspect of the puzzle pieces to make sure that we are highlighting and marketing what Lampasas truly is. I love this community, and to be able to show and continue to build the quality of life and the businesses here, because we already have such a strong foundation of selling ourselves, because we do have a lot to offer.
I can tell you, a business is not going to come to Lampasas.
But the workers will. They do take it into account.
Maybe the workers will, but unless there is some type of financial benefit to come here, a business is going to have a hard time coming here. And we don't have a lot of workers here is one of our, and that's from a former business, or not former, current business owner. We don't have businesses and employees that are just flocking in to Lampasas to work here.
In fact, most of the employees in some of the bigger manufacturing here, as we all know, don't live here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, if I can, Mayor, to kind of get to your original question, can we compete with other communities that are providing incentives? In some ways, we cannot, right?
Right.
If the big computer company that went to Belton early on in the game, we didn't have $1 million in our pocket to give as an incentive. But what we want to make sure we don't do is provide any sort of incentive, whether it be discounted land, for a business that comes into town that doesn't quite meet the goals of the EDC, or even, in one case, would compete with the current business. It doesn't make any sense for us to discount land for that particular customer. The other thing that we heard of in Stacy referenced appraisal, but we've also taken that a step further and done a broker's opinion. Part of it was to answer that question: what is the value of this land? And right now, that broker's appraisal said, well, yeah, Belton, you can go there and they will give you land, or the land will be heavily discounted if you put this type of business there. But they also noted the fact that there is an advantage that Lampasas has, maybe not today, but certainly in the next several years, in terms of our location. We are far enough away from other business parks that Belton isn't competing with Temple. We're not competing with a neighboring city. And we do have some uniqueness in terms of not being on I-35.
Yes.
There are a lot of prospects that we get that say we want to be X number of miles from an interstate. But if you look at I-35, is that the interstate you want to be next to? Not necessarily. We think that there's some great advantages to 281, 190, 183. If a business comes in and they represent capital investment, job creation, and not job creation at $12 an hour, but job creation at a pretty sustainable salary. If they're going to sell a product that maybe they're spin-offs, there's not only going to be benefits for the city, but there's going to be benefits for the school district, benefits for the county. And we're doing what we can to package up with what we have, which is not a huge closet full of money. The land is a piece, tax abatement could be a piece, so there are a number of different ways that we can package that up. But that's a long way around your original question.
Yeah.
But you know, we can't compete with the Houston, but I think we can compete regionally, locally.
Don't you have to get some traction though at some point? I mean,
Yeah,
I know,
absolutely.
I know that there's like, some of these are not great fits out there, but if you don't get anything moving out there, then would it just sit?
You know, and I think the whole, the concept of a first person discount, you know, is something that's in the heads of our EDC board. And the deal the first person gets may be a little sweeter just because we need to get something out there.
Get it going.
So that's certainly in the mind of some of our board members.
One of the things, and I haven't heard as far as any of your marketing approach, and maybe I've just missed it, so forgive me if I have. I tell our lumber guys all the time, and that Lampasas, we're about a couple hours from Dallas, Fort Worth, hour from Austin, hour and a half from San Antonio, 3 hours from Houston. Those markets are the best markets in the world.
Mm-hmm.
When you see that we're within a 3-hour radius, I think we're in a fantastic spot.
With great thoroughfares in between.
With great thoroughfares in between. And that's what I would sell the heck out of.
I am, yes.
I hadn't heard you say that,
It's on, yes.
okay? And I think that's important, is our central location because when you're talking trucking, when you're talking distribution, when you're talking manufacturing, all of those key things are greatly important in that.
Agreed.
All right, I got a couple questions. What are we doing to market to local businesses that are looking to grow?
That are needing their help? Wait,
That are looking to grow, local businesses, looking to grow, moving to the business park. I didn't hear anything about that. My second concern, and maybe you addressed this, maybe I missed it. The leads received in relationship to the proposals submitted, have we heard anything back from the companies that did not submit a proposal, and why?
well,
Is there a follow-up that goes with that?
Yeah, a
That way
lot of-
maybe we can figure out, what's the problem? Why didn't you submit a proposal?
the ones that we're submitting on are the ones that we have a site for. So, again, it's the ones that we're getting submittals, or I'm submitting on, it's just a lead is just knowing that there's something out there, and maybe that's the confusing part.
I guess my concern is, why don't they move any further? It's just a lead, they're not really interested, there were a possible, I mean, what?
We don't have a site that meets their requirements. Say they are utilizing a huge amount of water, but we don't have the capacity for that amount of water a day.
Okay,
Say they're looking for a 125-acre site. We only have, we don't have it connected for that amount, or something getting into, or they are looking for, we meet all the requirements, but they need rail access.
or they don't want to spend $2 million to flatten the
Right.
site.
Something like that. And it's all of those things that we are getting interest and getting in front of and communicating, but there's some kind of requirement that we don't fit into. But the ones that we do, we're on their radar.
I think identifying those would be important.
So with the leads, the folks that are interested, did they not know what is being offered? Or is it just like a cold call lead?
Some of them are cold calls, some of them, like the ones from the governor's office, I'm not in any communication with the business owner. It's all funneled. The governor's office is in communication with the business owner. We are only getting the leads from the governor's office, and it is to maintain a certain reputation of not just always, you only can reply unless you fit every requirement. Otherwise, we're wasting their time, if that makes sense, of the staff's time with governor's office,
We're
because
wasting our time too.
Yeah,
Wasting our staff.
so what we're calling a lead is basically a blind taste test. We have no earthly idea whether or not they're actually,
Might like Lampasas.
you
That's
might
what-
like Lampasas. We have no communication with them whatsoever. I'm not gonna call that a lead. That's just something that's flown out there.
and
I wouldn't qualify that.
I can certainly adjust that. This is more internal for myself to see that, just so you see what that traction is.
I think companies that you
But I can see
actually
it being
s-
confusing.
I think companies that you actually spoke to would be more considered a lead. Somebody that actually has a genuine interest.
Yeah, all the ones that aren't governor's office are ones that I spoke to.
It's not confusing. I guess what's misleading is actually what percentage of the leads received are coming from the governor's office. No, I'm asking you.
What percentage is coming from the governor's office? So if there's 57 and there's 38 leads that came from the governor's office, that's like 75%.
How can you go get more businesses? How can you go find them? Are you up to that?
Yeah?
Cool.
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you, Stacy.
Thanks.
City Manager's operational report.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. I may defer to some staff on a couple of these items. I'll run through and make comments on the memo you have included in your packet. Water, we wanted to let you know that, as previously reported, we are expecting a draft of a temporary agreement with Kempner Water Supply. This is being developed by our council at Graves Doherty. Council may or may not be aware that our contract with Kempner is not actually to buy Kempner water. It's to deliver our Central Texas water through Kempner. But we feel like this may be a contingency in the event Central Texas does have trouble drafting water. It certainly would be very expressly temporary and would not relieve the parties of their obligations. So if Central Texas is able to deliver water, that's what they need to do. We also wanted to report to you, we did have a good meeting last week with Kempner Water Supply Corporation in Central Texas. We're somewhat optimistic. I think Central Texas is in, as they expressed, better position, particularly after October 2nd, when they'll do some additional upgrade to their ability to raw water pump. And Kempner as well can back up and meet our needs in the event that there is any additional problems there. We want to remind folks that even with the recent rains, the lake levels, I think, came up 3/100ths or 4/100ths of an inch, which is, that's a pretty thin line, right? So conservation remains the key. We are hopeful that we will have a wet October, November, and in through February. I think the real barometer that we're looking at is what is the lake level April 1 compared to the lake level April 1 in the previous probably 10 years, and kind of see where we go from there. LCRA luncheon, we did get an invitation to that. If you are interested, please let myself or Becky know, and we can arrange for the RSVP and transportation. That will be over in Horseshoe Bay on October 24th. LEDC, I do like to report on other organization committee meetings, and just to let you know, they did meet on September 20th, talked about signage, real estate advertising, as Stacy mentioned, a review of the incentive guidelines and principles and financial report. Also in the staff report, took a look at mineral wells tour, which is also another item on my report, networking and event survey. And they did recommend T.J. Monroe to appointment on the Airport Planning Committee, which you will hear about a little bit later in the agenda. STRs, short-term rentals. Becky has continued to gather information on that, and will do so through a webinar. Should provide council some additional assessment. I think I think the real key question with short-term rentals is, does the investment of resources to regulate and administer equal, what gains we might get from it? In other words, if we set up a machine to administer an STR ordinance that causes Becky to spend a quarter of her time on it when we have, half a dozen STRs, then it becomes a question for council, is that what you want to do? And it might blow up, but we certainly understand that we want to be prepared. We want to make sure that we react to what council's need is and go forward. But we'll continue to report on that for you. Called meeting, we want to remind you that there is a called meeting on October 16th at 5:30. The city attorney will be here talking generally about meetings and meeting management protocols, decorum. But if you do have other stuff that you would like to discuss with JC that we maybe need to put on an agenda item, please let me know and we can build that agenda accordingly. Christmas on the Creek, Chris Eicher, in working with the Christmas on the Creek Committee and our contractors, looks like we're going to modify the display. We're going to move the trees on the, drape them on the south side of the creek and then have ground displays on the north side. And that is a result of just the wear and tear on strands and bulbs in our inventory. The committee was briefed on the status and have endorsed a display modification for the coming season. I think we do want to take a look at maybe some off-season discounts. Typically the price goes down quite a bit once you get into January, February. 281 South pre-construction meeting. Ryan attended that in Brownwood on September 14th with TxDOT and the contractors for the improvements. Original kickoff date was mid-September. They've had to push that back to likely mid-October because of the timing of some utility relocations, including our electric line across 281 as well as some Atmos lines. Ryan did also talk to the contractor and TxDOT about the sensitivity of the entrance and stone monuments in front of the hostess house. And everybody, I guess nobody in the room knew about the total eclipse, but he told them that they may need to take a few days off of the construction site because of the eclipse. Target date for completion is April or May of 2025. Ryan, did I forget anything? Okay. Mineral wells. Stacy and representatives from the city and EDC toured mineral wells on September 18th. Had the opportunity to visit with their staff and local officials about the tourism growth that they've experienced there, and really some improvements in their economic base through downtown investment. They do take I think a pretty interesting and I think positive look at one-stop shopping. They co-locate their chamber, their EDC, and their tourism office in one location. They've been very successful, as you may follow. I know I've been following the Baker Hotel story for ever since I was driving through there 20 years ago. But through investor groups in the Crazy Water Hotel, I think Stacy had a debrief this morning, maybe with Becky. Becky also attended, but I think it was very positive and some takeaways. I think there's through the debriefing process, I think, what could possibly work or what are they doing that maybe makes sense for us to give a shot. But Becky or Stacy, did I miss anything? Staff, we want to take the opportunity to recognize the following employees who began the City of Lampasas careers in September. Fidel Marua, 19 years. Christy Acevedo, 6 years. Thomas Kelly, 7 years. Bart Baker, 1 year. Garrett Bradley, 7 years. Stephen Knowlton, 2 years. Christopher Coronado, 1 year. Jody Cummings, 31 years. That's a big number. Vicky Tower, 7 years. Carlos Rodriguez, 2 years. Monica Wright, 18 years. Trevor Johnstone, 1 year. And Eliana Corcoran, 1 year. Jacob Lovey, 1 year. Tanya Baines, 7 years. Clips we continue to prepare and market based on council directive. I think you've got some handouts at your seat at the dais, as well as included in the packet was some materials that were put together by Stacy and the rest of the staff team. We're ready to push this out. We wanted to get it in front of you just to make sure you felt all right about it and ready to go.
First off, these look awesome. Stacy, did you do these? They look really good. One that I'm looking at here on the Beyond the Horizon, at the bottom, should it be 200 for 2 nights and 400 for 2 nights? Because it's 3 days, it's 2 nights of camping, isn't it?
Correct, 2 nights. So, yeah, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
It
Not-
just
but
here
not
it says
camping
2
only.
days, so if I think 2 days, that's 1 night.
We can clarify that.
These look really good. Super cool.
So from the town hall meeting in April, we did kind of outline some dates. I have since received an email from a council member that suggested a 6-month out town hall. I think what we wanted to make sure of first and foremost is that we had this information packaged up and then also pushed out as soon as we can. If you feel like you would like to have one, maybe at a 3 to 4 month ahead of the event, we could slip one in, but we defer to council on that input. I think the one thing that's important to do, I mean, we've got promotion, you know, making sure people from the outside know where to camp and that sort of thing, but I think the other thing that we're not forgetting is that the need to inform and educate our residents about, you know, this is going to be a mess. There's going to be a disruption on this day, these weekends, et cetera. So we understand that that's part of our responsibility as well. So if you have any thoughts on that, please let me know. Development meeting staff, we have determined a date for development meeting, similar, and we've done these in the past, maybe not as frequently as we should have, but it's been set for October 11th, inviting builders, real estate professionals, trades, October 11th at 9 a.m. And I think the real intent is to have a conversation and see what works, what we could do better, any updates that we might have in terms of codes or laws impacting the process. And also, council we want to make sure if you have the time, please come. That's all I have for you. Can I answer any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Are you done? Yes, sir. Okay. New business, discussion and appointments of council members to serve on the airport planning committee. And we're looking for volunteers from our council here.
I couldn't have said it better, Mayor. I think the commitment is, again, the airport master planning process. That's an item that was funded 90% by TxDOT. Our intention, after talking with the contractor as well as TxDOT, was to identify a couple of people from the Airport Advisory Committee, one person from the Pilots Association, an EDC representative, a city council representative, and chamber representative. We wanted to make sure that there was input in terms of the economic impact of the general aviation airports and make sure we get, you know, the sense from the chamber, EDC, and council about the planning.
Would it be possible to revisit this one when we have all 7 council members?
Their first meeting is this Wednesday
Okay.
at 5:30.
I got too much right now.
I'm the same way. I cannot.
Swamped. I think Davis needs to volunteer.
I think we can volunteer Davis.
Can he, yeah, Davis could be voluntold, right?
I hope he's watching.
And council, you could make a motion on that through this agenda item, or you could just defer to 7.2, where you would actually appoint the individual members from all entities and include Mr. Keel's name there, whatever your preference is.
Anybody have any preference on that?
Let's do it at 7.2.
7.2, yes. Discussion and appointment of Airport Advisory Board members, staff, community members to Airport Planning Committee.
And just to fill in, Mayor, the Chamber of Commerce has, their representative is Jason Pelscraft. And I believe we've got everybody else. It'd just be one person from council to be included on that list.
Okay.
Guess I'd move to nominate Davis Keel for the Airport Planning Committee as a representative from Lampasas City Council.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Discussion and possible action concerning the second reading of an ordinance approving and adopting a budget for, discussion regarding appointment of alternate board member to the Airport Advisory Committee.
7-2 would be
7-2.
the appointment of the full committee.
Make a motion to appoint the following individuals to the Airport Planning Committee: Ken Cattles, Robert Lansford, Mike Watson, TJ Monroe, Keel Davis, and a Chamber of Commerce representative, Jason Pelsner.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seven point three, discussion regarding appointment of alternate board meeting members to the Airport Advisory Committee.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item has been placed on the agenda to appoint Dale Kemp to fill the alternate vacancy on the Airport Advisory Board. The board recommended appointment at their meeting on September 13th.
Move to appoint Dale Kemp to fill the alternate vacancy on the Airport Advisory Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Discussion and possible action concerning the second reading of an ordinance approving and adopting a budget for operating the municipal government of the city of Lampasas for fiscal year beginning October the 1st, 2023, and ending on September the 30th, 2024, appropriating money for various funds and purposes of such budget to include appropriations of money to pay interest, principals, and sinking fund requirement on all indebtedness, providing the severability clause, providing a repealer clause for repeal of all ordinance and appropriations in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance, and establishing an effective date.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is the second reading of the ordinance to officially adopt our budget for fiscal year 23-24. And it does have to be a roll call vote, please.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance through roll call vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Councilmember Williamson,
Approved.
Councilmember Price,
Approved.
Mayor Pro Tem Morris,
Approved.
Mayor Pierce,
Approved.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Approved.
7.5, discussion and possible action regarding the second reading of an ordinance to approve a tax rate for the city of Lampasas upon all property subject to taxation within the city of Lampasas, Texas for the 2023 tax year for the use of supporting the municipal government of the city of Lampasas for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2023 and ending September the 30th, 2024, apportioning said levy of the amount of the various funds and the items for which the revenue must be raised, including providing a sinking fund for the retirement of the bonded debt of the city.
Again, Mayor and council members, this is the second reading of the ordinance to officially adopt the property tax rate for fiscal year 23-24, and it does have to be a roll call vote, please.
Move the property tax rate be decreased by the adoption of the tax rate of 0.304888, which is effectively a 4.92% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Councilmember Williamson,
Approve.
Councilmember Price,
Approve.
Mayor Pro Tem Morris,
Approve.
Mayor Pierce,
Approve.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Approve.
Discussion and possible action regarding ratifying the property tax revenue increase reflected in the fiscal year 2023 and 2024 budget.
Mayor and council, the local government code does require a separate vote to ratify the tax rate, and it also will need to be a roll call vote, please.
I move to approve to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the budget by a record vote.
Second.
City Secretary on the roll call vote.
Councilmember Williamson,
Approve.
Councilmember Price,
Approve.
Mayor Pro Tem Morris,
Approve.
Mayor Pierce,
Approve.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Approve.
Thank you, Mayor and council.
7.7, possible discussion and possible action regarding a resolution to cast votes for the Lampasas Central Appraised District, LCAD Board of Directors.
Mayor and council, this is referenced during public comments by Mr. Carl. This is a notification from LCAD of the call for nominations for the LCAD board. And you could do something tonight. You don't have to. If you did want to make nomination, you would want to do that at the next meeting on October 9th, if desired. By the attached letter, all current board members are willing to continue to serve. The other thing that I would note to you and call your attention to, which perhaps you've already looked at, is the number of votes the city has. We have 278 votes out of 5,000. It's about 5.5% of the total number of votes. The casting of the votes would actually be done by resolution in between October 31 and December 15, and at that time, you could put all 278 votes to one person or divvy it up for, in years past, I think in some years we have not made any nomination, and I don't know that we've even cast some votes some years, but those are sure decisions for council to make, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
How many board members are on this board?
5.
And all 5 are willing to continue?
The chief appraiser's letter indicates that the board members who are willing to continue to serve are, and it lists all 5 of them. Again, you don't have to take any action. In fact, I would suggest waiting until October 9th if you wanted to take action at that time. You would certainly be within the window.
Personally, I'd like to consider it a little longer.
Absolutely.
Just off of what we heard earlier.
You bet.
Okay. All that being said, I'll make somebody give us a motion to adjourn.
I would move to adjourn.
Second.
I believe that's going to pass.
Aye.
Aye.